Hi, my name is Anita Sharma, and I'm with the United Nations Millennium Campaign. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the upcoming G20 summit, April 2nd in London, and just how important it is at that summit for world leaders to come together and reaffirm their commitments that they've made on behalf of the world's poor, especially in light of the financial crisis. There's just so much bad news on the state of the global economy that, according to a World Bank study, the global economy this year is likely to shrink for the first time since World War II, going down about 5 percentage points below potential. The forecasts also show that global industrial production by the middle of 2009 could be as much as 15 percentage points lower than levels in 2008. World trade is on track in 2009 to record its largest decline in 80 years, with the sharpest losses in East Asia. Now, what does this mean? It's especially troubling for those least responsible for the crisis, the extreme poor. That same study goes on to warn of financing shortfalls of anywhere between $270 to $700 billion as commodity prices continue to decline, global trade collapses, trade finance and private capital flows dry up, and remittances drop. The poorest countries lack the social safety nets to deal with these crises, and they're becoming increasingly dependent on overseas development assistance. The study also warns about 54 million people could go into extreme poverty, and that's on top of the 100 million people last year who went into extreme poverty, meaning that they had to survive on less than $1.25 a day because of the increasing food and fuel crises. Now, unfortunately, even before the financial crisis hit, rich countries were falling short of their aid commitments by about $39 billion a year. And as the situation continues to spiral downward, some people are looking to the April G20 summit in London to provide a more pro-poor response, and that's what we are asking for. We're saying that the economic crisis should not be used as an excuse for rich countries to renege on their aid commitments to poor countries, which are already bearing the brunt of the financial crisis. We're saying that the G20 countries from the OECD countries must reaffirm their previous commitments to allocate 0.7 of their gross domestic income for development assistance. At the same time, they need to establish transparent, time-bound calendars for the disbursement of funds and provide it in accordance with the commitments that were made within the declaration of the Accra Agenda for Action. We also think that developing countries should have greater voice and representation in these financial institutions like the IMF and the World Bank, and that equality between developed, emerging, and these economies must be guaranteed in the institutions. And finally, we think that resources provided to poor countries to deal with the crisis must come without the harmful conditionalities, and the mechanisms for the delivery must not stifle growth. For example, create another cycle of indebtedness of recipient countries.